Dear children, what I want to share with you today is about fuel cells. Myself, Dr. Digna Varghese. Fuel cell. A fuel cell is an electrochemical cell that converts the chemical energy of a fuel and an oxidizing agent into electricity through a pair of redox reactions. Fuel cells can produce electricity continuously for as long as the fuel and oxygen are supplied. Example of a fuel cell is the hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. Fuel cell is a galvanic cell in which energy of a fuel oxidation reaction is directly converted into electrical energy. But there is a main difference between the fuel cell and a galvanic cell. Conventional galvanic cell. Fuel cell In fuel cell, the reacting substances, for example, hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, the reacting substances are hydrogen and oxygen. So both these are not stored inside the cell but are continuously fed into the system to produce electricity continuously. Okay, but in the case of galvanic cell, for example, zinc in zinc sulfate solution, copper in copper sulfate solution, they are within or inside the cell. They are stored inside the cell. But in the case of hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, both hydrogen and oxygen supplied to the cell to produce electricity continuously. Here, a fuel cell is an electrochemical cell that converts the chemical energy of a fuel. Here, the fuel means hydrogen and an oxidizing agent, that is oxygen, into electricity through a pair of redox reactions. The simplest type of fuel cell is the hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. The cell represented here, the carbon graphite electrode, which is in contact with the hydrogen gas. The sodium hydroxide aqueous solution is there, and the oxygen gas is in contact with the carbon graphite electrode. You can see here the schematic representation of the hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. The graphite electrodes are shown here, that is porous graphite electrodes, which is impregnated with the platinum catalyst. Sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide is filled between the electrodes, between the two electrodes. The hydrogen gas is fed into the solution through a porous graphite electrode under a pressure of 50 atmospheric pressure. Oxygen is also fed into the cell through the porous graphite electrode under a pressure of about 50 atmosphere. Hydrogen gas fed into the anode compartment and oxygen gas fed into the cathode compartment. The alkali solution is in between the two electrodes. So the hydrogen and the oxygen gas at 50 atmospheres thereby bubble into the alkali solution through the porous electrodes. Two electrodes are connected externally. Okay, here the anode and here the cathode. At anode, the hydrogen gas undergo oxidation, that means removal of oxygen removal of electrons and forming H water molecules here, and at cathode the oxygen accepts electron, undergo reduction. The net cell reaction is hydrogen plus oxygen giving water. Cell reaction. At anode, oxidation takes place. Remember our code and ox. That means at anode, oxidation takes place. 2 hydrogen plus 4 OH minus giving, that is OH minus means alkali, giving water plus 4 electrons. Oxidation is the removal of electrons. At cathode, oxygen reacts with water and the electrons from anode compartment undergo reduction forming 4 OH minus, that is alkali. The net cell reaction is the alkali both sides containing right hand side and left hand side containing OH minus that cancels each other, and the 4 electron also cancels each other, and 2 water molecules also cancels each other, and the net cell reaction is 2 hydrogen plus oxygen giving 2 water. That means combustion of hydrogen produces electrical energy. Combustion of hydrogen produces electrical energy. The EMF of hydrogen oxygen fuel cell is about 1.23 volt. The cell is working continuously and produce electrical energy if the reactants such as hydrogen and oxygen supplies continuously. Okay, that is the only difference between the galvanic cell and a fuel cell. In galvanic cell, the cell reactants are inside the or within the cell. But here the reactants like hydrogen and oxygen are supplied externally to the cell and producing electrical energy. The other example for the fuel cell is hydrocarbon oxygen fuel cell. Advantages of fuel cell. The fuel cell has high efficiency, about 60 to 70%. Fuel cells are very light. It has no direct combustion is involved. This, therefore, they serve as pollution-free source of power because it gives only water as the byproduct. Uses of fuel cells. They are used as a primary source of power in space programs. Example, hydrogen oxygen fuel cell was used in the Apollo space program. They are also used as an auxiliary source of power in submarines and warships. Major research is being due to the develop their use in automobiles. Thank you for your attention.